support Julie and make this a successful workshop. Today's event will be recorded, so if you care not to be on screen and archived later on the Co-op's YouTube, go ahead and leave cameras off. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead. Are we good to record, Nero? Okay, so I'm going to do one more reposting of the supplemental materials for the workshop in the chat so that anybody who wants to follow along can. And Julie does recommend this. At the end of the workshop, I will be asking you to stick around just to fill out a survey. It's a real quick thing, but it does help us make these events better and more accessible. But without further ado, one last bit of housekeeping. Feel free to add any of your questions into the chat. Julie will catch them, and if not, I will catch them, and we will make sure that you get all the answers you need. All right, so without further ado, let's give it over to Julie Lerche, who is a graphic novelist from Nashville, Tennessee, and an alumni of the Manhattan School of Visual Arts. She has been running a D&D game with this Vtubing setup she's about to share with us for over a year and has refined this whole process guide to be as beginner-friendly as possible. And so, with that said, take it away, Julie.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone coming out. I know that this is kind of like a weird thing for cartoonists to try to get into, and that was definitely my hurdle, is that like I'm not an animator. Looking at the live 2D setup makes me freak out, which is like the most popular thing for like professional VTubers, and the models cost $3,000. So like I wanted something very accessible that was primarily designed for my D&D game at first, because I wanted something to engage my players more. We've been playing online through Discord for 3 years, and my idea was to have a VTuber for every NPC that they could talk to, and then that just like spiraled out of control. So I'll show you guys my folder where I have like everybody, and then everyone has four files or 3 files. So I have like 200 little images of like all of the NPCs my players can talk to. But then there was a discussion in a different server I was in where like someone really wanted to do a talk but really didn't want to show themselves on camera. They were like really anxious about it. And so I was like, oh, well, this like, I don't want to say like this technology, but like this style of doing presentations is actually like can be super engaging, and especially when I can show you the ones that I have like way more emotions set up. It's actually like really fun to make, and like once you get everything set up, it is so easy to add new things. So the one that I made literally last night is our friend Inkling. So this I made in probably 20 minutes. Which is why he's a little rough, but that just goes to show you, like, once you know the system to follow, it's very easy to set everything up and insert new ones. It's just like that beginner hurdle is really confusing. So that is what the goal of this is to get you over that first hump. So in the workshop link, there is a Google document that just like reiterates everything that I'm going to go through. So I am going to share my screen somehow. Yes. Great. And we're just going to do the like 3 downloads first, because I think that those are the easiest part. So this was me troubleshooting. You should download the version of OBS that is your like operating system, obviously. So OBS is a open source like streaming system. You have at least heard of it a little bit. And then Streamlabs is what most like professional Twitch users use, which is a like paid version of OBS's like free open source software. So I would recommend downloading whatever the most recent version of OBS is. I am like a chronic never update my program unless I have to person. So Vtubing and OBS have both had updates since I made the guide, but generally everything will be in the same spot. So I'm just downloading whatever the newest OBS is. I will not install it because I already have it up and running because I'm using it right now. But yeah, so update, download OBS, really easy. The weirder one is we are also going to download the Vtube, which is the like primary application. So I'm going to go into, whoops, that's not the link. That's it's going to try to open in Google Drive, which is not what I want it to do. There it is. Okay. So in the file, so everyone will get access to this. We're going to go to the itch.io page. So this is the free version of a much bigger program. I only use the mini version, Vtube Mini, but they have a full version where it is like way more articulated. You can like divide up by like joints and parts, which if you are into that, it's in early access. I have never used it. It is very similar to PNG Tuber Plus, which I've watched a few tutorials on and found it a bit overwhelming just for like what I'm trying to do personally. So I recommend just sticking with Mini. It is a free download. I did give them $5 because that is what is recommended. But obviously it is free. So I already have this downloaded. So I'm using the old version that is listed here. It is still available for downloading. And then they recently updated it, I think like maybe a month ago. So I've not used the new version yet, but I really like even the base version. So I'm excited to see what the new version has. For the simplicity of sticking to the guide that I wrote, I will just be using the old version for my demonstration. And I'm realizing it's much harder to keep an eye on the chat than I thought it was. So please feel free to interrupt me. So you can download through the itch.io page by clicking download now. Then it's the very typical itch.io page. And then that is basically all of the downloads. I would recommend that you go in the Google Drive in the starting PNGs. These are all of the examples that I'm going to go through. This is Inkling, who I made last night. And you can see that these are just broken down into, number one, you should very clearly label your PNGs, because you can get to a point where one character has like 24 frames. So that was a mistake that I made in the beginning where I didn't clearly label everything. So now I make everything really explicit with the titles. So mouth open, blink. Mouth open, normal, which just means that their eyes are open. Mouth closed, normal, eyes open. And then mouth closed, blink. So every character needs at minimum 3 frames. I typically will skip the mouth open blink because I feel like it doesn't really lose anything. Like my character that I'm using right now does not have a mouth open blink, and you would probably never notice. And then also included is the Vtube mini file, which you can download and insert directly into your program. Also included is Alice, who is the main NPC that I use for my D&D game, so she has the most expressions. So I will show you how I set up her file, but basically you want a completely like faceless, scary looking base that you can then put different folders and expressions on top of. So, but that's pretty typical of like most VTubing technology. So for right now, and then the GIF example I will get to if we have time because it's weird. So I would say start with Inkling because it's very simple. So just download all of these. I will use from this for simplicity. Okay, so I will. Am I missing anything in chat? I think. No, we're good. Okay, so now I will share the actual program stream. Okay, do we all see green? Yes, great. Okay, so this is Vtube Mini. So this is it's gonna break my OBS. So this is the primary user menu. You can see when I click on it and I'm being active, it reveals all of the HUD, but if I were to click off of it, then all of the HUD disappears and it functions like the normal camera. So the first thing that I'm going to do is delete everything so that way we start fresh. So, whoops. I just want to remove everything. Okay. So, I typically always start with, I deleted his mouth. So now when when I talk, he doesn't open his mouth anymore because I deleted the frame. So typically I load in all of my images first. So I'm going to replace this by going into my folder with the PNGs, which you will not see. My folders are so messy. And I am replacing it with my Inkling. And then I'm going to do the same thing for all 4 frames. What I like about this program is that it is very simple and very clear. Like it has literally pictures that you just match up to the things that you drew. So closed mouth image, open mouth image, closed mouth blinking that I matched to closed mouth blinking, open mouth blink. So now that we have our little guy in here, we have all of these settings up here that can control the type of movement that you want to give it. So I find the majority of these very distracting. So I have everything turned off except for jump on talk, which is like just a little bit of movement, which like animates it a little bit more, but isn't like overbearing. That is just a toggle. So now when I talk, he just stands there. And then the rest of these are typically used. I'll show you how I use them on Alice in her model, but they are like just a little bit of like ambient movement. The shaking is very intense. The bouncing's kind of fun. I wish it was slower. Little hops. Yeah, everything just feels very caffeinated and distracting. Then there's like super crazy turbo shaking. So those are the options. It's the exact same options for the open mouth, except for they activate when you're talking. So I very rarely see anyone like use this professionally outside of like the first Vibane one, or maybe like the Hotbane. So those are the primary static motions. But the biggest feature that I use is the hotkey feature. So for the hotkeys, I have this currently set to 3, so I don't have anything to alternate to. So I'm going to do the same exact thing I just did, but I'm going to get my image back. So I am looking for not speaking, blinking, and then I remove the last one because I don't have that frame and no one will ever notice. So now that we're back to me, I'm going to set the hotkey. The hotkey can be any key that you want it to be. I have a programmable mouse with 12 buttons on the side. So that is what I use, and I just make them numbers. So I'm going to press the number 2 on my mouse, and that has selected it as a hotkey. So then I can go over to, I think it's for like WoW players, but I use it for drawing shortcuts. So I'm going to set the hotkey for 1. I just do like the numbers according to what stage they are. And then now if I press 1, nothing happens. But if I press 2, it switches back to me. And so in D&D, I will either use this to switch between NPCs that are talking, or you can use one character and switch it between multiple emotions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load my Alice file. Put somewhere, yeah. All right, so this is Alice. She's already set up to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and I believe that I put this entire file in the Google Drive for everyone to look at. So for Alice, I'll set this to shaking. So when they are talking to Alice, she reacts, she bounces, and then they can say something to make her pouty, or they can say something to make her sad, and I am able to just adjust her emotion based on the hotkeys on my mouse. You can change it according to, like, if you only have, like, buttons. And then there's the slightly different hotkey feature of enter on press, which means as long as you're holding the key, it will be that emotion. And then if you take it off, then it will default back. So I will set the scared one to enter on press, leave on release. So I'm going to go back to 1, and then I'm going to hold 4, and that will swap me back, and then I'll release 4. So holding 4, letting go of 4. How to assign the key to switch. It is this set hotkey button up here, and that will allow you to overwrite whatever the current one is. So if I just do M, then whenever I hit M, it will switch. So I'm going to hit 3 to be sad, and then I'll hit M to be happy again. Yes, you have to be on the state that you want to assign. So it will also, when you hover over it, you'll see which keyboard key is assigned to each one. So you have to click set hotkey, click set hotkey. So usually what I do is I set up all of my emotions and then I do 1, 2, 3, 4. I will show you guys my big evil D&D file just for fun that has everybody in it. And the file's labeled the file's labeled everyone in pretty much one file. So it takes forever to load. So this is Alice's aquarium volunteer shirt because they all went to the aquarium. So I just quickly redrew her shirt on her model. And then because of the way that I set up the files, all of the expressions got to remain basically the same. So some of these don't have hotkeys because depending on who is in a scene, I will switch the hotkeys around, but not move the states around. So we have happy, pouty, scared. This is one of their teachers. This is a baddie. We have different people. So sometimes people will have 2 expressions or 1 expression depending on who is it. When I click on an emotion, it just stays as the first one. If you are able to get me a screenshot, I can look at it more. A bird. Sometimes if you go outside the range in the middle, you'll have to reconfigure your OBS settings. And then this is a weird instance of a GIF where I had like a clone situation. So I rigged the default animation to be them blinking, and then I have the 2 different states are each one has a different talking state. So if the left one is talking, it's this one. If the right one is talking, it's this one. But then they both blink on the GIF frame, but I didn't want them to blink at the same time. So I created the GIF to alternate their blinking. So it's funny. And then we have their cat mascot. So that is the basics of setting up the file. So I'll go back to Alice. So now we're going to set up OBS, which is a little bit weirder. So I'm going to switch my display again. I don't have any of the top menus. I see. That is the new version that I'm less familiar with. I assume the hotkey is that little like square button with the asterisk. Yes, I agree with Jesse. And I will update the guide after this. Oops, don't do that. So the emotions are all like hard-coded PNGs. And then if you want to do the animations, I assume it is the little square with like the little guy in it will trigger the like movement. But every expression that Alice has, like I drew, and it has 3 frames per emotion. So Inkling, I only have the default smiling. Okay, do we see OBS now? All right. So don't look at all of this scary stuff. We're gonna start fresh. All right, new, completely blank scene. I'm trying to add the blanket stuff. Huh? You'll have to click on each frame. And also I would recommend that you download the older version if you're having trouble with the newer version. But each face with like the closed mouth, the open mouth, the blinking, and the not blinking. Just because I'm able to troubleshoot the older version so much easier because I've been using it forever. All right, so we have our completely new scene. And the first thing that we want to do is get our Vtube on the screen. So the way that I'm going to do that is by creating, not a scene. I'm going to add a source. And you might think that it is an image source or a media source or a window, but actually we are going to do a game capture because the Vtube is actually built in Unity, so it is best as a game capture. So, oh, I love having this weird black square on my screen. That's awesome. So I'm going to label it to remember what it is, and it needs to be visible because we want to see it. And then we want to capture a specific window. That window is Vtube Mini, and that should bring up your game capture. So now we have our VTuber in the middle of our screen, but we have the same green background from the application. So the way that we get rid of that is by adding a filter. And this is what all streamers use as their like green screen filters. So it's actually really funny to be able to use it in like 2D. And that is called the chroma key. And we are going to key out all of the green. However, Alice has some green in her design. So you can see that it is making her earrings and her eyes like kind of fade out. So we want to lessen the similarity. And this is kind of like a tolerance setting in like most image programs. So I only want one specific shade of green. So now that I lowered the similarity, I brought her color back. So I'm going to close that. And so that's basically the hard part over. I'm going to add a background. And then for... just going to grab something. Can you change the color? I believe there is a way to change the color. I will just get whatever this is. Random image. Let me go back into Vtube. Yes, so the... okay, I can walk through that again since things aren't showing up. So, first question, does it always have to be green? No. Let me share my whole window and then I can show you. Change stream. Green. Okay. So in Vtube, the like gridded display settings, I have it set to green because most of my characters do not have a lot of green, but if you have like an extremely green character, you can set it to blue or pink or gray. So this rotates out, and then your chroma key will have to switch according to whatever you're using. So let's say I'm using pink. Then I go back into OBS. So now the green chroma key no longer works. So I go back into filters, and I can make it magenta, and it keys out again. So I will do the chroma key again. I'll do it with green because that is what washed her out, which is very common. So back to green. Filters. Add filter. Chroma key. So we can see her eyes and her earrings are washed out. And all I'm touching is I'm sliding the similarity meter until all of her color has returned. If you go too far, you get the outline around her, which is annoying. And if you go too far the other way, she just disappears. So, bring her back to here. Great. I'll close that. So now she is filling the screen, but there's still kind of all of this other stuff. So typically what I do is I will double click. Well, okay, lock the background so I stop clicking it. I will double click on this and you can move it around. And then I don't remember how to crop. Okay, it's Alt. So with Alt, I will crop in, adjust the figure, but leaving a little bit of space so that way she can still bounce. And then I will scale up. And then I like to crop off the bottom so that way you don't see the end of the PNG. So now when she bounces, I'll even go lower. I want her to bounce but not show the bottom of the PNG. Testing. It's a lot of me saying testing into the mic. Test. Okay, that's pretty good. And then I leave it centered. You don't have to. And then this is just like a random background from my website. And that is basically it. I have done like I have like a combat background that I use that's like a scary texture. And then I will just hide that. I will hide this one, import the other one. And that's really easy to change in the moment. If you're using this for interviews, that probably won't come up. And then the other thing we need to set up is the virtual camera. So you can see when I turn my virtual camera off, it goes a little blank in Discord. And so what I want to do is output the scene. And so the virtual camera basically functions as a webcam. So you are kind of tricking your computer into thinking you're doing a real webcam when you're not. So now when I start the virtual camera, we can see this scene. And I already have mine set up in Discord. So it will automatically output it. So the way that you would do it in Discord, or I've also done this in Google, oh my god, Google Meetings or Microsoft Teams or Zoom, then you would change it exactly the same way that you would for a normal camera. What is the best way for me to demo this? Okay, here I have Zoom. And does it go back to default camera? It will display the OBS like not working camera. So if I stop my virtual camera in OBS, oh, it didn't like that. Then it just does. It shows like the camera not working with the OBS symbol. It won't like automatically turn on your webcam. Oh, it hates that I did that. Oh. Oh, he's so mad. Here, I'll turn you off. Oh. This never happens to me. Usually we're friends. This is crazy. Of course, it's like the one time I'm presenting something. I've done so much worse in OBS for you to crash right now. You're embarrassing me. Whoa, okay. No, run normal. All right, we're back. We have my usual scene. I didn't like the other scene. So this is my normal setup. I have all this other stuff for like if I'm gonna lay it over like a Photoshop drawing or something. So let's get back into Zoom. Start the camera. Start the camera. Anyone know how to get? I don't know how to get rid of that either. It's really bothering me. Okay, so in Zoom, I'm just going to video, and you just select it as your camera. And when you install OBS, it should automatically install the OBS virtual camera. If you have Discord already open, like you do now because you're watching me, then sometimes it will not show up until you like close and reopen Discord. So that is the most common thing I see people get tripped up on. But if that doesn't work, I would do a full reset and then the virtual camera should show up. But anything that has a camera available, like Discord, like Teams, like Zoom, is going to have this option. And I have accidentally done interviews where like I was helping my friend with like his grad paper and I did not like brush my hair or anything. And I was just like, "Do you want to talk to my little anime girl for this interview?" Because I look really bad. So I have pulled this into places where I probably shouldn't have. And then I also have like my talking bird mascot somewhere. So that is that. I'll show you guys the way that I have Alice's file set up, and then I can take you through the like extra credit GIF making portion. So where is Alice's file? Geez, yeah. Okay, so here is Clip Studio. I do all my stuff in Clip Studio. So we can see that everything has been very meticulously labeled. And this is something you'll see with most VTuber tutorials. Yes, if you pick the OBS virtual cam, it works. Sometimes it requires the restart though. Thank you for coming. The majority's over, so you're not missing much. So yeah, so this is something that most VTuber tutorials will go over, especially when you watch like professional live 2D rigs. Everything is very, very labeled. So I have her base, which is just like a blank, expressionless, scary void. Alice is the only one who I did like face shading on. Everyone else is like very flat because I got lazy, and I also have so many in here. And this is all just Alice. Now she is a princess, so she does have a princess form that did double the amount that she of frames she needed. So this is her princess form. So that's my problem. You don't have to do that. But everything should be as divided as possible to make editing easier for you. So I recommend like separating into layers and folders as much as possible, and then also labeling those folders. So I have her bird mascot is in here. And so he only has 3 frames of talking, blinking, not talking. And I would also be a little bit cautious about using like too much shading on the expressions, because when they change, it can be a little jarring. And then something else I've run into is like the blinking looks weird, but I'm also like, I don't have any animation background. And a lot of it is like trial and error and just like putting it into the program, letting it do the automatic blinking, and then seeing if you need to edit anything. So this is Alice. So for demonstration purposes, let's say that I want her to have some sparkles around her that will animate when she is not talking. So that is when I would use a GIF, and a GIF can replace any single frame of your VTuber. So I'm just gonna draw with my mouse. Some sparkles. Ew, flesh sparkle. Please forgive me with my mouse. And then I'll do another one. So this would be frame 1 of the GIF. I'm going to export that. I mean, I'm just doing sparkles. I'm not trying to draw. Okay, so Alice, I'll label it Alice Sparkle 1. And then just to give it a little bit of animation, I'm going to slightly rotate all of them. So I'm leaving my original one, duplicating it, getting a new one, and I'm just going to rotate a little bit. No! Nothing crazy. Yes, 10-minute notice. All right, and then that is frame 2. Then we're going to go to my favorite website, which is Easy GIF, which I will put up here. So there is a way to like do GIFs in Clip Studio or Photoshop. I just can't figure it out for some reason. So I always just go to Easy GIF. It's so simple. And I'm going to get those 2 images I just made and put them in here. Then see what the default is. Oh, did I not hide the other one? Photoshop is crazy. Are they stacking? What's wrong? Oops, don't do that. Don't stack frames. Don't do that. What about now? Yeah. Okay, so now we have a little sparkle. So I'm going to save. Awesome. So it looks really good on the black background. Want to put that in my co-op folder. All right, so now I'm going to go back into Vtube. And where I have my closed image, I'm going to replace it with my GIF. So I have seen like YouTubers use this to do like drawing animations or like kicking their legs on like a sitting object. So there's a ton of like really simple applications for this that I've not fully dived into. I mostly use it for my weird blinking when 2 people are like in a scene together in D&D, but this is like a really cute way. My computer just blue screened. So I think we can end it there. That was like the last thing.
Well, that was a very dramatic end to your workshop.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I mean, it didn't like how many sparkles there were on screen.
Understandable. You were really you're pushing the limit of gifts.
Yes.
Well,
But that
oh sorry.
no, I'm happy to troubleshoot people when I have everything working. And please feel free to DM me if you get stuck on anything.
Well, actually, do we have a moment to just take some question and answers from anybody in the chat right now?
Yes.
Okay. Fire away.
Right. Okay. I have died. Okay. I should be able, hold on. Let me Yes. Okay. I'm back. I'm going to switch back. Hold on. All right. I think I'm back. Am I back in here? Okay.
Not the stream is not displaying.
Okay. That's fine. That's not going to come back.
Okay. Uh,
um,
so I'm going to go ahead and read some of the questions just so that people who are maybe following along listening can just pick it up. Jesse asks, what is the biggest hurdle for newbies that you know of in this process?
so the only thing that I have really run into is the OBS virtual camera not coming up immediately. But as I said before, that is usually solved with restarting either the program or your whole computer. In my experience with my players in my D&D game, I was able to give them just the Google Doc, and then they all came back next week with VTubers, with expressions, with like everything working properly, and none of them really asked me for help at all. So I think the Google Doc is very like concise and smooth, and I think OBS is like the weirdest part, but it's only a couple things. Ooh, multiple. Okay. Can you open multiple instances of Vtube? I have not tried. That is very interesting. I know that you can have multiple instances of OBS open because we have one of my players will have an OBS recording with their character doing the virtual camera, and then we'll have another OBS recording um, with like recording the game to play it back later. So I I don't know exactly about multiple instances of VTube. I don't think it would be that hard. It should open twice. The only thing is that it's going to the way it jumps is by detecting your microphone. So unless you had two different mics, they would both jump at the same time. So that is very interesting. And do you use the hotkeys? Yes, I do. So the hotkeys will work no matter what program you're in. So I'm going to continue to refer this as like a Dungeons and Dragons thing. But when I'm DMing or uh, then I am like looking at my notes, I am talking to my players. I have like one eye on the VTube to see what the current expression is. And then if they say something to one character and then say, "Oh, well, Falcon, how do you feel about that?" Then I will hit a button to make Falcon pop up on screen, and then he will answer. But it will change no matter what program you're in. However, sometimes I am typing something with numbers, like a date, and then it will switch to a character according to that number. So it kind of is like a double-edged sword because I've accidentally like had somebody queued up that is like a spoiler character, and then I've typed in a number, and everyone's like, "Whoa, who's that? Who just came in here?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, don't look at them." So it will override through whatever program you're in, or you can go in and change it manually, which is what I do when I'm scared of having spoiler characters. And then in OBS, you can crop to just your character enough that it will eliminate the sidebar. The only thing is that when you tab into VTube, it will bring up the grid display, which will show up behind you. So it's like a little bit ugly. Yeah, I have it on my mouse, which does numbers. I assume if you had something like a Stream Deck, it would also hotkey to that just fine. Probably letters is safer. Yes, you can have as many expressions as you want. In my big file, I think I have 13 characters in there, but I'm using it as multiple characters, but you can easily use it as 13 expressions for one character. So streaming would be, yes, it's all new states. Streaming to Twitch or YouTube is something that I have way less experience in, but if you were to do it like how I set up my brother's stream, which I think I added a picture at the very top of the Google Doc where it is the Vieto tube has been cropped and moved off to the side. And then there is like the standard Twitch streaming stuff of the overlay PNG and then the game thing under it. And then you have to add the audio for the mics. We didn't do any audio today. So that something more standard, like a normal Twitch tutorial would be more helpful.
All right. So I hate to cut off the Q&A because there's a lot of great information going around. Where can Julie? Where can people follow up with you if they have more questions or after the fact when they're working on this?
Yeah, totally. Please feel free to DM me. I'm very responsive to DMs. I'm binary in love on everything. My email is also in the top of the Google Doc, and I would love to see what you guys make.
Yeah, I would love to see what people if people share those on social media and otherwise. I'm gonna go ahead and post the link to the Co-op YouTube channel, which is where you can find this recording. New York, do you have a sense of when this recording will go up? Let's put you on the spot. Yep, so that'll be 1 week from today, Saturday the 31st, post the Nibbening Festival. And again, thank you so much, Julie, for walking through all of this, being very responsive to all those great questions. I'm going to go ahead and post the co-op feedback survey. If all of you guys could just take a moment to fill it out, it just helps us make these events really great. And again, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much for your time. Big round of applause.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry my computer blue screened in the middle of that. But glad I could come back and answer some questions.